this is Chase from C&C Commentaries, and today on C&C Movie Breakdowns, we're going to be doing an episode for Last Christmas, a more modern film from the other year, and it's going to be a lot of fun to break down. I am, of course, joined by my fellow co-host, as always. Can't get rid of him. Man, have I tried. Nando.
Howdy. I'm still here. He can't get rid of me. He's tried.
Maybe next year.
Yeah.
How's it going, buddy?
Not bad, but today's a special episode.
Why is it a special episode?
Because we got another special guest on this one.
How?
Oh man. Everybody welcome Madelyn.
Madelyn.
What's up?
Welcome to the show.
You've all been waiting for it. It's finally here.
Yeah,
I've
after
arrived.
this, we can just stop.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
This is the pinnacle.
Doesn't get better than this, guys.
I mean, we're paying you is it what the rate we chose was $500 a minute?
It's not ladylike to speak of your salary. It makes others feel bad.
Well, it's not my salary.
Well, still.
All I'm saying is we might need to start a GoFundMe.
I
Yeah.
think that would be fair.
Yeah.
The Dons are gonna be after me. I don't like how I got the money.
Oh no.
Anyway, we're talking about Last Christmas. This one.
Last Christmas. Should we go into a synopsis, perchance?
Why don't we go into our initial thoughts first?
Okay.
All right, Madeline, you go first.
Well, I think when people think of a typical Christmas movie, they wouldn't think of Last Christmas. They would think of that as a typical Christmas song. But this breaks all the boundaries of everything anybody ever thought they knew about Christmas. That's all I have to say.
Oh, we got some strong opinions here.
Very passionate.
That's how I get paid the big bucks. You come out strong.
Exactly. I mean, I guess I'll go next because
It's hard to beat that, Chase. I don't know. I just want to end it there.
Well, we saw this in theaters, and
We did.
That was a very fascinating experience. And going into this, I don't know how you felt, but I did not have high hopes for this.
Me neither. I was not. I thought it was just, might take a nap, might talk a little bit, watch some TikToks, but no, I was, there's no words to describe the emotions that I was feeling. They weren't really, I wasn't sad, I wasn't happy, I wasn't angry, I was just content. And that was a very nice feeling.
It was an enjoyable time. And
it was all around a very enjoyable hour and, a half. I don't know the exact time because time passes in a whole new dimension when you're watching Last Christmas.
Agreed.
Yeah, we got some strong opinions here.
Nando, this was your first time viewing Last Christmas. What were your overall thoughts?
And not last.
Oh, definitely not last.
Well, going into this movie, it told me things about this movie. I really like Last Christmas. It's one of my favorite Christmas songs. So I was going into this movie with some expectations, and I don't know. I think that this movie has some pretty good points, but it also has some extremely dry points. I don't know. I definitely felt the runtime on this one. There was just some parts of this movie that were extremely boring for me. It's probably because I'm not the biggest romance fan.
But you do like Christmas, and that is in the title.
I can't argue with that logic.
You just don't like the last part. I mean, it's understandable.
But this movie also has some good points. I don't think anything was done bad in this movie, except maybe some of the writing portions. But other than that, it's pretty...
Maybe the plot a little bit, too.
Yeah.
I don't think the romance is too cheesy, though.
I don't know.
You can tell it's sort of playing on that concept of cheesiness and kind of taking it down.
It's almost like they were trying so hard to be cheesy that it didn't come across cheesy, which I think is the sweet spot in a romance movie.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't know. I think that this movie's high points is you know, this movie's got some pretty good actors.
Yes.
And I think that certain actors bouncing off each other is its high point, but I also think that, you know, how romance is written in this film, you know, I don't know if it's cheesy or not. Like, I don't know what they're going for, but it didn't land for me. The best parts of this movie are when the romance isn't taking place, in my opinion.
Well,
Cynic.
I guess without further ado, we can jump into a synopsis, and I guess if you've gotten this far and weren't aware, there will be spoilers. So yeah, Nando, give us a synopsis.
Last Christmas is a 2019 film. You know, it follows the story of a girl named Kate, and she works as an elf in a little Christmas shop, and she meets this guy Tom, and you know, they kind of hit it off. You know, Kate isn't making the best decisions in life, and their romance kind of almost is trying to fix Kate. And then, you know, there are some hijinks. There are some romance. You know, and that's the plot of this movie. It is the last Christmas.
It's Tom's last Christmas, anyway.
It is Tom's last Christmas.
Oof.
We're getting to spoilers.
Too soon.
Too soon. Spoilers right away. We're getting.
But was it really his last Christmas? Because was he truly there? No.
No.
Oh, and this movie's directed by Paul Feig.
That is
Paul Feig, really?
Yes. Man
He was
responsible for the Ghostbusters reboot.
He had something to do with The Office too, I think.
Yeah, he was a writer on there.
He was a writer for The Office, yeah. I love The Office. Just
And
gonna put
Freaks
that
and
out
Geeks.
there.
Well, let's jump into this movie.
His career clearly went downhill.
But yeah, let's jump on into this movie. So how does this movie open? This movie
it's
this movie
Awkward.
opens in 1999 in Yugoslavia.
as all great stories do.
Yeah. So, you know, it's 1999, and we open on like a choir, and you know, the camera kind of zooms in on this girl, and it zooms in on what appears to be her mother. You know, they're exchanging glances. But then we cut to London, 2017, and this girl has grown up quite a lot, and she's in a bar. And this is our main girl, Kate, or Katerina, but she prefers Kate. Why don't you walk us through this bar scene, Chase?
Well, from the very start, as we're introduced to Kate, you can kind of tell that she's kind of like, she's getting hammered here and there. She's sleeping.
Who could blame her?
Who can blame her? She's sleeping with a bunch of guys, and you can just tell
Who
that
could blame her?
she doesn't really have a full grasp on of what's going on. She doesn't have a steady place to stay. But we're also introduced to the fact that she is a big George Michael fan, as she has repeatedly played the same song 5 times on the jukebox. And if there's one positive thing I think we can all agree about this movie, is that if you're interested in hearing the whole George Michael discography, just watch this movie, and you will hear any George Michael song you want.
Yeah, this movie's got a lot of George Michael, that's for sure. And
I mean, it was one of his dying wishes to get this movie made, so,
Nothing says Christmas like George Michael.
Exactly.
So yeah, if you're a fan of George Michael, that's an added plus. But if you don't like George Michael music, You know, you're
Oh, I couldn't imagine someone sitting through this movie if they didn't like George Michael music.
yeah,
I can
you're not gonna have
imagine
a good
somebody
time.
sitting through life if they didn't like George Michael.
That's just a good motto.
I think it should be on a t-shirt. You guys should make merch with that on it.
We're gonna hire you for our merch design.
That's an even bigger salary. I don't know if you're ready for that.
Yeah, sorry, I can't fork over the cash. But anyway, so the guy that Kate goes home with, eventually his girlfriend shows up and she gets kicked out because it appears that that guy was in a relationship. So, you know, that's a yikes.
It's always great to open a movie with a good scumbag moment. Sets the scene very well.
I mean, Kate is kind of a scumbag, but, you know,
yeah,
not
Kate,
as big of a scumbag as this guy.
Kate's kind of, I feel like that's kind of the point. Kate's kind of a bad person in the majority of this movie.
Not even kind of, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, but you also still feel like she does have that heart, and you know since it's a Christmas movie that it'll probably end happy.
You feel bad for her, for sure. I would agree with that.
But then we see Kate's walk into her work, which she dresses up as an elf.
Can I just say that this Christmas store is the coolest Christmas store I've ever seen. It's so extravagant. I mean, when I saw that, I was blown away. I would love to work there year round. Like, I don't even care it's Christmas. That'd be such a cool place to work.
Exactly. And then we're introduced to her boss, that's played by Michelle Yeoh, who is just simply referred to as Santa. And
she's the best part of this movie.
Yeah, the dynamic between Kate and her boss is great.
Strong character. I liked her.
Yeah, I really liked her. She was really cool. She's definitely the most enjoyable part of this movie, without a doubt. And so we see Kate at work, and we see that Kate is kind of miserable at work. And you know, she's just kind of like helping this lady find, I don't know what it is, but it's clearly demonstrated here that she does not like her job. She's kind of just miserable with her life.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's that she hates her job. I think it's that she also just wants to do more. Like, she wants to do these auditions. She wants to sing. Like, I don't think she necessarily hates it there.
Yeah, I just think her life hasn't panned out the way that she thought it would, which is, you know, that's pretty disappointing.
And she gets kind of interrupted at work by her sister, and her sister tells her that she's been missing doctor's appointments, and that she wants her mom wants to call her, and you can definitely tell that she has a strained relationship with her family. It's definitely set up very early in this movie. And as she's dusting, she meets Tom.
Yes.
And he's going
Henry Golding plays Tom.
Yes. Other movie is he in? Can't remember.
Well,
it'll come to me.
Crazy Rich Asians, and he's just one of those guys that, like, from the moment you see him in like this and Crazy Rich Asians, you know he's gonna be a big star down the line.
He could be more attractive. Sorry, that was kind of mean.
Alright, and so the first interaction between Kate and Tom is that a bird poops in Kate's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And,
has that ever happened to you guys? Has a bird ever pooped on your head?
No. I
okay,
can't
me
see
neither.
it.
That would be traumatizing.
So, as they say, every good romance movie starts with bird poop in the eye. It's just a universal truth of the universe. And, so Kate eventually, Tom walks into the store again, and he asks Kate to go on a walk with him.
Kind of creepy.
Very, very early on, yeah, he's very creepy.
I mean,
Like, let's just say it how it is. He comes off so creepy in the
so
start of this whole
creepy.
thing. Like, Nanda, you were saying this while
Stalker.
we were watching it, but he felt like a serial killer.
Yeah. No. This guy is definitely fishy when you first watch this movie, but as you come to learn, there is a reason that he's been so fishy.
I mean, should we just get into that now?
I think that would make this more clear.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll tell the reveal. So, it turns out that the reason Tom is so persistent in trying to interact with Kate is that Tom Webster, as we come to know his full name to be, he died last Christmas. He died in a bicycle accident. And
Really makes that title a gut punch.
yeah, and it turns out that Kate was the recipient of a heart transplant. And it turns out that Tom's heart was the one that she got. So it kind of fits in with the name and the song, Last Christmas I Gave You My Heart. So last Christmas he died and Kate got his heart. Literally.
I mean, it's a twist so simple, yet you wouldn't really think to search that it was there. You know?
It's like the Christmas version of The Sixth Sense, but done worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the whole point of this movie. And so their romance, Tom's trying to get Kate to make better decisions, to take care of his heart. He prevents her from drinking. He reconnects her with her family. His actions make her volunteer at a homeless shelter. She just becomes an overall better person due to the fact of Tom's existing. And so yeah, Tom was just like a figment of her imagination this whole time. He was never there.
Well, I mean, he existed, but he's like, it's like hard to tell if he was like, because he's not like interacting with Kate, because he's a ghost. So, we get all these, throughout the movie we see scenes of them together. So you gotta imagine what this is like from other people's perspectives of just...
She looks insane.
Yeah, like talking to herself on the side of the street, or before she gets on a bus, or breaking into an ice skating facility. Like, they probably think this woman is losing it.
Yeah. I think that the way they explained the ending, I don't think it was done very well. Like, honestly, I was kind of confused because, I don't know, I feel like with other movies where it's like there's this big plot twist at the end, when it hits, you're like, oh my gosh, how did I not see this? And, but with this one, you were like, kind of like, what? Like, for me, it wasn't, I understood what they were going for, and I understood the whole concept that it was like she was imagining him and that kind of thing. But I don't know. For me, it was just like, really, it was kind of overdone.
I mean,
Yeah.
I personally really like the reveal. Because, she goes to Tom's apartment, or what he showed her as his apartment. And, it turns out there's just a completely different person there, and they find out that, he's, this place is being sold. And she's like, oh, Tom is selling. But it turns out that, the guy was like, oh, yeah, nobody is living here currently. It's really unfortunate. The last owner died last Christmas. What was his name? He's like, oh, Webster. And then Kate's like, oh, he's been dead this whole time. And she was just imagining him, or he was a ghost. I don't really.
That's
Well,
the part that I'm unclear about. He is
a ghost, and it's just like, because there is setup, with the whole heart transplant stuff of like, oh, you haven't been seeing your doctor, you haven't been doing your pills or whatever, and you're eating so unhealthy. So there is like bits of setup, but it like, and then we get this scene where like, because they keep going back to this park bench, several times throughout. and his name is just on the bench at the end. Tom.
Yeah, little memorial, Tom Webster.
And so, Nando, you posed an interesting question when launching this. You know, all those other people, were they dead as well, or were they just regular people?
Yeah, nobody really knows, but because Tom knows things about these people. He knows about, like, oh, this guy's getting divorced, this guy's having money problems. You know, he just knows all these things. So was his ghost just listening? Because if it's just a figment of her imagination, then how could he possibly know this?
No, I think it's a ghost just listening.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, so that's a little something I'm unclear about. I don't know if she's just, like, has an incredibly elaborate delusion, or this guy's literally a spirit. But I think it's leaning towards he is a spirit. He is not present physically, but he's still there. Like, his spirit is actually there.
Yeah, I think that's confirmed. Why don't you walk us through these interactions? Because eventually, after she gets kicked out of her friend's apartment, she does eventually go back to her parents' house. She gets picked up from her dad, who is a taxi driver, and kind of just goes back to the house. She decides, okay, I'm gonna have to suck it up and go.
Yeah. And Kate's like, she kind of just accepts her losses, and she's like, okay, I'll go back home. And she comes back to her very worrisome mother. And, that's kind of why Kate has been trying to avoid her mother. Her mother is, like, overly clingy.
Yeah. And it's so weird seeing Emma Thompson, this, prominent British actress, just playing this, like, weird role of a Yugoslavian mother.
It was strange.
With, like, warts on her face, and it was almost like Nanny McPhee.
And so, they talk, and her mother sings her to bed. And, Kate's just, I don't know, Kate just, like, is pretty, I don't know, she just comes off as ungrateful here, but I think that's just part of her personality, because Kate is very, like, sarcastic all the time.
I think she's kind of a I think she has a pessimistic viewpoint on the world. Yeah. And I think she thinks everybody's against her, and success isn't supposed to happen for her. So I think at this point it's just like she feels like she's reached an all-time low, and she's like, nothing could be worse than my mother singing me a bedtime story when I'm in my mid-20s, which I would agree with that. I would be not the happiest person if that were to happen to me. So I kind of see where she's coming from. I think she could have been a little more grateful that her parents took her back in, but I mean, yeah. I understand her perspective at this point in time. She's pretty beaten down.
Yeah, especially during the holiday season.
Yeah, definitely.
Some of my favorite moments throughout the movie are the interactions between Michelle Yeoh's Santa and just this random Danish man.
Yeah.
Who comes into the store.
Side plot.
It's so good. This is an amazing side plot. It's just I
need a spin off of this next Christmas, starring Santa and the Danish man.
And he's literally just referred to as the Dane in the credits, and she just calls him boy.
Yeah, she can't pronounce his name. She can't.
But from the moment they meet, so he walks in the store to pick up something, and then they just are drawn into each other, and their eyes are just locked. And he's like, I have this Christmas gibbon for you.
Yeah. And eventually, they go on a date, and, it's not really too heavily expanded. Although, we just get those, few, we just kind of get these few interactions between them. But they're pretty funny when they happen.
But what I love about it is that it's intentionally that awkward.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be awkward.
I had some secondhand embarrassment watching it.
Yeah. It's, they're pretty funny to watch,
kept the movie going at some of the slow points.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of Santa's role in this movie. She's just there to kind of keep this movie going in its slow points. At least that's how I felt, because every time Tom and Kate are talking, I mean, the actors have good chemistry, but their entire relationship is pretty much, oh, Kate is pessimistic and doesn't want to do what Tom says she should do. And then Tom is like, oh, you should do something good for yourself. And then eventually she gives in to Tom.
Yeah, I agree. I think the key to making like a good movie, not saying that this is the best movie of all time, but it's like, I think you need side characters that could kind of pick up the plot when you can't have the main characters, you can't have a main character doing everything in a movie. So that's what, like in Cars, when you have Mater, or in Despicable Me, you have the Minions. Like, I feel like those characters are kind of important, which is Santa's role, is to kind of like pick the movie up and to give you some lovable characters that aren't necessarily the center of the movie.
I mean, yeah, for sure. And we have those, but we also still have those touching moments between Santa and Kate. We see very early on that the store is robbed into, and I'm actually surprised that this plot point never came back at all. That the store was just broken into.
Yeah, that definitely should have had a more prominent role in the movie.
It's totally Kate's fault too, because she forgot to lock up.
I mean, that's a pretty bad mistake.
Well, yeah, and then Santa she tells the cops that that it was probably a burger, and she's like, you turned me into a liar, you made me do this, but I'm gonna give you, another chance because I enjoy having you here, and when you started, you were filled with so much cheer and joy, and what happened, and you can feel that, like,
interesting quote too.
You feel that bond between them.
Yeah.
And okay, we kind of get more scenes of Tom and Kate. That you can definitely feel that Kate's starting to fall in love. They break into an ice rink together, and a policeman has to chase them out, and they're just more general talking. And Tom gives advice on what she should do with her family. And I really like Tom's performance in this movie. Sure, he might be kind of boring for the majority of this movie, in my opinion, but I really like him in the last quarter of this movie.
He's a very charming figure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And Tom, one of his main lines is that he's always telling Kate to look up.
Yeah.
And like sometimes him and Kate will be sitting on a bench and he'll be standing above her, and then she'll look up and he'll be looking down at her. And it's kind of just those, more of those little clues that, oh, he's a ghost or an angel watching Kate from above type of thing. Like omniscient force.
Yeah, and another little side plot that I don't know if we mentioned it before, but Kate's she goes to like 2 auditions in this movie.
Yeah.
I think she auditions for a role in Frozen, and then she auditions for a role in like an ice skating thing. And so Kate's trying to become a singer. And eventually, we get one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Kate is helping Santa get ready for her date. I think it's just really charming, Kate's trying to help Santa out, and it's kind of just a good way to bond despite their little bump in their relationship.
Yeah, I think that was a good point in Kate's character arc. You kind of see a new side to her, the kind of sympathetic and emotional side that I think you couldn't really see that through all of her pain and struggle throughout most of the movie. So I like that part as well.
Yeah, I feel like Kate definitely has an arc in this, for better. And you were, Nanda, when we watched this, you were wondering to yourself, how are they gonna, redeem her in a sense? Yeah. And I feel like they actually do a pretty good job of redeeming her from being
I agree.
Semi-heartless.
Yeah. So in the beginning of this movie, she's kind of like, she's just a kind of a bad person, you know. But in the middle of this part, we start to see kind of her redemption. Sure, she might have like some snarky conversations. She might say things that hurt people, but she does start to do some good things. You know, when Tom is kind of influencing her life, and by the end, when the big reveal happens, she kind of like opens her heart. Haha.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting comment that you made, Nando, when you said that she still makes some of the snarky comments and stuff, because I think that's important to have a good character arc in a movie. I think it's a hard balance between having this character completely change and to become a completely new person, that's not real. In real life, if you're trying to make yourself better, you're still going to have, relapses, or you're not going to completely change your entire character. And I think one of the better parts of the movie was they did a good job with Kate's character, and the fact that she didn't completely pivot. She wasn't, a holy person all of a sudden. She still makes mistakes, and she's not perfect, which I think is a good, it's a good part of real life. And I think that reflects a lot of people trying to change, and that they can't be completely perfect all the time.
Yeah, character progression shouldn't be linear.
Yeah.
And I think, this movie does a good job of that. But then we see Kate going to the homeless shelter. And she's looking for Tom, because Tom told her that he volunteered at the homeless shelter. And I think this movie would be very interesting on a rewatch, because there are definitely some clues that Tom was a ghost.
I mean, he just shows up randomly on his bike.
Yeah, every single time he shows up, he's on his bike.
Which makes sense. He died on his bike.
Yeah, he died in a bicycle accident.
And he's, always wearing the same outfit.
Yeah. When I first saw this movie, I was convinced that Tom was a serial killer.
As was I when I was watching this in the theater. I thought, well, obviously you never think they're going to go that way. But it very well could have been that Tom was a killer. And
it could have been Kate's last Christmas, and the fact that she got murdered in the end.
I thought that's what was going to happen.
Me too. I saw it ending in a very, very different way.
I thought we were just gonna change characters, and Kate was gonna get murdered, and then we just follow Tom.
If it actually did that, this movie would be amazing.
I mean,
every time it got dark outside, I got scared for Kate. I was like, "Oh, look out for Tom and his bike! He's coming! You're over, Kate! Run!"
There's a part where Tom literally takes her down a very narrow alleyway.
Yeah,
He's this is murderer's alley or something, something he calls it something like that. And I'm like, he's practically saying to your face, "I could kill you right now."
I would have lost a lot of money if we were betting on the ending of that movie.
And this takes place in the UK. He gives off really serious Jack the Ripper vibes.
Tom the Ripper, I see it.
Yeah, Tom the Ripper.
Coming to you in theaters soon.
Madelyn, you touched on the importance of side characters, but I feel like not just talking about Santa, but people like the mom or the dad, or just I feel like this movie has very memorable characters, even if it's not the main two.
I think the side characters are arguably better than the main characters.
Honestly, there are these parts with these two police women who have great lines. One of them is way too serious, and the other one's "Oh, lighten up, just enjoy the holiday festivities." It's that's a violation,
This movie is definitely better when it's not about Kate and Tom. Sure.
I mean, and it's hard to feel that real connection between them because he is a ghost.
Yeah.
It doesn't even seem too genuine, too. I don't know. It just, their whole relationship, it just gave me some strange vibes. And maybe the fact that I thought he might kill her was playing into that, but I don't know. It was just, I think I liked the side characters better than the main, definitely. Yeah. I liked Kate, though. I thought Kate was a cool character. Tom was just, he freaked me out.
Yeah, but then we get, you mentioned, we had that little talk about how character development should not be linear. And I think, one of the best scenes in the movie is, when Kate, her mom, her dad, and her sister all get together and have, dinner.
Yeah.
And, at this point in the movie, Kate's becoming a better person. And, her family's obviously quite which is quite broken. But Kate kind of gives, Kate and her sister get into a fight, and Kate kind of does a low blow here. She kind of exposes the fact that her sister is a lesbian to her family. And, when I was watching this, I was like, ooh, that's a low blow.
Low blow, Kate,
Yeah.
low blow.
Can't be saying that. That secret's too important for this petty argument.
I mean, but then we get, but you know that, like, or at least you feel that, like, it didn't come from a place of hate. It was kind of like, I just wish that, you would, be fully accepting of, like, who you are. Like, well, not for herself, but, like, share this kind of thing with her family as well. Because obviously Kate knows, but she hasn't, explained it to her parents yet. And, we kind of get that, confrontation between the two of them when she goes to her sister's house.
I don't know. I think that it comes from a place of spite. Like, I think, her sister's getting...
Well, in the moment, yeah.
Getting angry at her. It's even, like, in the line delivery. She's like, oh, I forgot the girlfriend's name.
It's like Alba?
Yeah, something like Alba. She's like, oh, where's Alba? Where's Alba at your big celebratory dinner? Where's your girlfriend?
Kate woke up and chose violence.
Yeah, and then, everybody leaves the table. And, it's just kind of ruined.
I mean, honestly, the person I most feel bad about in this movie is the dad. Because when Kate and him are in the car, he picks her up and is driving her, he talks about how he would want to get a divorce from their mother, but has just chosen not to because of, like, money and time. And so, we end this movie with it seeming all happy, but, once he's still in an unhappy marriage, for him at least.
In fact, it's even mentioned that he could have been a lawyer, but he just didn't have the funds to.
Yeah.
Then, after that, Kate's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, and she's just kind of wandering the streets. She's looking for a bar to get a drink, and, she runs in. Tom pulls up on his bike.
Yeah, creepy.
Yeah. I don't know why Kate doesn't think that he's creepy, considering every time she's alone, he just pulls up on his bike.
Yeah,
like,
it's creepy.
Sure, maybe 1 or 2 times, but, once you start getting 3, 4, 5 times...
It's like he's a stalker.
If I was Kate, I'd be like, yeah, this guy's following me.
If I was Kate, I'd be getting my whistle ready. I mean, that is very uncomfortable.
Tom takes her to his supposed apartment, and she tells Tom about her heart transplant, and they share a nice night together. He tucks her in and he sings her to sleep. And when I was watching this movie, right before they're gonna kiss, I totally thought that Tom was finally gonna murder her. I thought that would have been perfect dramatic timing, but
when he was singing his lullaby, I was waiting for a knife to be pulled out of his back pocket.
Exactly, and it slows down like that too.
Yeah, I thought right before their lips were gonna touch, I was like, she's dead.
Poison or something.
I don't know, but turns out that Tom is not a murderer. He is actually a very nice ghost.
Murder would have been so much better.
I mean, there was definitely a darker direction this could have gone, which I would have also enjoyed to see.
Yeah.
Like last Christmas, I gave you my heart. Tom walks out of the movie walks off the screen with her heart in his hand. Like, whew, that would have been next level. Come on, Paul Feig.
But then after that night, Kate's very happy, and she ends up trying to collect some donations for the homeless shelter.
Yeah.
She's got
a change of heart, quite literally.
She puts on her elf uniform. She makes a sign, and she starts getting some funds for the homeless shelter.
That was probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie, when she was singing in front of the shelter. I really liked that scene for some reason. It made me happy.
Well, because she only gets, like, a few bucks and some loose change here and there. And she goes in, and one of the guys is like, oh great, what are we supposed to do with this? And then the other guy is like, it's the spirit that counts. And then we get this, it's a start of like this montage of her, helping out the shelter more, raising more money with her singing, and then she starts to organize this like community
play.
Not talent show, but like
it's like a play.
Yeah, like a holiday bash type get together
like a
type
musical thing, something that involves singing.
Just a nice holiday get together, and performances.
Yeah. And we're kind of getting to the end of the movie now, and eventually Tom talks to Kate, and they meet in like the little garden, the little secret garden, and Tom and Kate kind of have like an argument, and Kate storms off, and eventually we get kind of like this montage. She wants to be kind of a better person, so she goes and apologizes to everyone that she mooched off of. First, she goes to her sister and she apologizes to her. Then she goes to that couple she stayed with. She apologizes to them, and all these things. And I think it's a nice little progression of her character. She had.
Go ahead.
She had some bad moments, but now she's working to repay her debts.
In these kinds of movies, it's very, very rare that you see it not end in an actual romance, and I enjoy that with this. They don't try and obviously her and Tom can't get together, but they don't try and shoehorn anything in at the end with someone else. It's just Kate becoming a better person. Yeah. And that's what I enjoy. And I feel like this ultimately gets better on a rewatch. At least for me it did. Because that Tom doesn't really have any romantic interest in her.
He just wants to make her better. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wants to look after his heart.
Yep.
Like in a sense, he loves her and cares for her, but because she has his heart, but
he probably loves his heart more than her.
It's kind of like more of like a guide her towards the right path kind of thing.
Yeah. And then we get that reveal scene, and we actually get, I think, one of the this one's probably my favorite scene in the movie is we kind of get like a montage of all of Kate and Tom's moments. We get a shot, we get a little clip of them on the ice rink, and then it shows that Kate was on that ice rink just alone. And we get
Sixth Sense homage.
Yeah, we get that scene of Tom telling her to look up at him, and we see it from like another person's perspective, and it's just her just looking up into the sky. So, I think that's probably my favorite scene in the movie. And then
it's a great little reveal.
Yeah, I think the reveal.
That part was definitely done well.
The reveal in this movie is done really well. I like that fact.
I was shocked. I have to admit, I was shocked.
But anyway, you cut to 2 weeks later, and their little Christmas event at the homeless shelter is going well, and Kate sings, and everybody in the homeless shelter plays instruments, and it's a very nice ending. And it's just a little happy ending for everybody.
Agreed. It ends with a nice family dinner. We get at least for me and some other people, it's the classic line of the mom saying, "Oh, hush up now, you and your lesbian pudding."
Iconic line.
It's an iconic line.
Yeah, it turns out that Kate's sister came out to her parents, and they accepted.
It's happily ever after again.
Yeah. And
redemption for all.
That's how Last Christmas ends.
I've said this before, and I said this, a year ago after watching this for the first time, but this is like the better version of a lot of those Hallmark movies you see, or at least,
Don't trash on the Hallmark movies,
Oh,
Chase.
I'm not trashing on them. Some of those, I'm sure we'll cover those in the future, but some of them can be very, very bad. And this is like a more higher budget Hallmark film in a way. If you know what I'm saying.
I'm offended.
Well, I don't know much about Hallmark movies.
Well, maybe next year Madelyn and I can do 12 days of Hallmark Christmas films.
I don't think the world is ready for that.
Oh boy. By next Christmas, we'll have 1 million subscribers. Crazy.
I think that's realistic.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. I'll be like The Simpsons. I'll just predict events.
Some manifesting.
Yeah, I guess. But let's go into our final thoughts and ratings here. I'll go first.
Okay.
Last Christmas, I like some of the parts of the movie, and I can't really stand the other parts. I don't know, this movie is kind of, I really like, it's kind of hit or miss for me. I like some of the parts, but I really just couldn't care about some other parts. And I think this movie gets really boring really fast, but I really like the reveal in this movie. So it's kind of hard for me to rate this movie, but I think that a solid 5.5 out of 10. Slightly.
I definitely want you to
above
watch
the
it again sometime next year. We probably won't do another episode, but I want you to come back to it in a year's time and see if your opinion, how your opinion changes on it.
Yeah, I'll give it a 5.5 out of 10. Not great, but not terrible. You could definitely do something worse with your time.
Well, all right, Madelyn, why don't you give us your final thoughts and rating?
Okay, well, I think there are definitely better Christmas movies than Last Christmas. Not better Christmas songs, but better movies. I think I didn't personally rewatch it, the first time I saw it and only time I saw it was in a theater, and I think it's a fun, movie that you can just go watch, or you could watch with friends or family, and I think you would have a good time. I personally had a pretty good time. I don't think it's the kind of movie that you would watch religiously every year, like The Grinch. Definitely not. I don't see it becoming a classic, but I think it's a solid watch. I think you could live your whole life without seeing it. I think you'd be content, but if you saw it, I feel like you'd probably like it. You wouldn't hate it. You might hate it, but I don't think a majority of people would hate it. So I think that is a pretty good thing in my book, because I've seen some movies that I've really hated, and I've seen some movies that I really loved, and it is a solid in between. So I would give it, if I had to rank it, I'm going to put it on a scale of Rio 2, which I hated, to Shawshank Redemption. It's more close to Rio 2.
Oh, that's quite the scale.
It's a pretty broad spectrum. If you've ever seen Rio 2, you know how horrible it is.
Madelyn is an innovator in her own right. Instead of a rating, she does a freaking rating system. Amazing.
I mean, I think you should have me back just for that, for my drops of knowledge.
That's going to be an exclusive thing just to whenever you're on the show.
I rate it on a scale of movies I've seen.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I would have probably done From Shawshank to Dougal, but,
I have not seen Dougal, to be fair. I would give it a solid Cars 3.
All right. Interpret that as you will. But I agree with a lot of the stuff you said of how, there are better Christmas movies. There are worse Christmas movies.
There are definitely worse.
This is very middle of the road, but I feel like this is a solid, enjoyable flick. And I don't see myself watching this every year, but I could see myself reviewing it or rewatching it, every so often, just because I feel like there aren't too many negatives that, stand out to me. This obviously isn't a film you go gravitate towards for, like, seeing what it does in terms of cinematic quality by any regard, but it's a nice comedy, and it's a nice romance. I feel like it's more comedy than romance. Great music, obviously. Charming leads, memorable characters, some great lines, a very smart reveal with nice setup. And I just feel like it's one of those Christmas movies. And I feel like nowadays you don't get a lot of Christmas movies, especially good ones. And I feel like this can be kind of like a new sleeper, underrated Christmas hit. And I would recommend it. I would probably give it a 6.5 out of 10.
It's no Cars 3.
Alright, well, with that being said, everybody, thanks for watching. And thanks to our special guest, Madelyn.
Yes.
I think I'll be back, guys. Don't worry.
Well, we're going to have to find a way to scrounge up some more cash to afford your rates.
Yeah, we can't, we can't get rid of Madelyn. She always comes back.
Yeah,
we can just make next Christmas our spin-off involving a murder with Santa and the Danish man, and I think we'll have enough cash.
I think that's what's going to be our next film project, probably.
Yeah.
I think it will do great.
Nando, should we do a tease for next episode?
Sure.
Would you like me to?
You know what? I'll do it, since it stars one of my favorites. Since it's.
Oh yes.
All right. Next episode on C&C Movie Breakdowns, we're gonna be talking about a movie that ended up being a lot better than I remember it. We're gonna be talking about Jingle All the Way.
What the heck is that?
You've never seen Jingle All the Way?
I've never seen Jingle All the Way.
Let me tell you something. You're missing out.
I guess I'll just have to watch the podcast episode. Sorry, listen. You don't watch podcasts.
And there we go. We already have
You got a listener.
But thank you everyone for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that shit. Let us know what you think about Last Christmas, if you have sat through it, and what are your thoughts on it. And
how would you rank it on a scale of Rio 2 to Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah, let us know where you would rank it, or tell us your own ranking system.
Yeah, we're open to all types of ranking systems here.
We'll just mention that on the next show. But thank you everyone for listening, and we'll give the final close off to our guest.
This is a lot of pressure, guys. How about we end with a song?
Oh God.
All right,
ready, everybody? We're gonna do it in unison.
We'll all sing our favorite George Michael song, okay?
Ready?
All right.
1, 2, 3.
Because you gotta have faith.
Birthday.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye.